So some people across the NBA have been dreading it, others looking forward to it. Either way, it's unavoidable. The NBA play-in tournament tipping off tonight. Celtics taking on the Wizards, 9 o'clock at TD Garden. This is what I want you to do right now. Predict the score for me between the Wizards and the Celtics for tonight's game. It's going to be lit for sure. And this is what we have cooking up for you here at Chat Sports. The first person to correctly pick the winner, predict the correct score, and also not edit your comment, because if you do so, you're a complete fraud, and we will be able to tell who you are. We will Venmo you $25 if you're able to correctly predict all of that. So be sure to get your predictions in the comment section below. Do so right now. Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook taking on Jayson Tatum in the NBA play-in game. Winner gets the 7 seed. Loser plays the winner of the 9-10 matchup coming up tonight. So get into the comments and predict the score for tonight's game. You're watching Boston Celtics today here on Chat Sports. I am Chase Sr. And coming up tonight, 9 o'clock in Boston at TD Garden, the Boston Celtics hosting the Washington Wizards. Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook taking on Jayson Tatum and the Celtics in a game where the winner moves on, locks up the 7 seed in the Eastern Conference playoff standings. The loser still has another opportunity to make it into the playoffs. They will take on the winner of the 9-10 matchup in the Eastern Conference. A lot at stake, so let's take a look at how both of these teams have fared against one another in the 2020-2021 season. There have been some really good games between Boston and Washington throughout this entire campaign. A couple of back and forth matchups that have gone down to the last couple of minutes in the fourth quarter and the last final seconds. Celtics own the season series 2-1 over the Wizards. January 8th, Celtics beat the Wiz 116-107. On January 14th, less than a week later, Wizards come back and beat the Celtics 104-91. And then on February 28th, the best game between these two teams, maybe a preview of what's to come tonight, 111-110 Celtics win in a game that came down to a Bradley Beal potential game winner at the buzzer that just barely missed. Now, Jayson Tatum is going to have to go off against the Wizards, and if they win this game, Jayson Tatum is going to have to continue to carry the Celtics in this playoff run because he's having to play without Jaylen Brown. Here's how he's done against Washington. January 8th, went off for 32 points. February 14th, wasn't really good, only scored 6 points. Then on February 28th, went back to the Jayson Tatum who we've become accustomed to seeing, 31 points in that game against the Wizards. On the other side, how about Bradley Beal, who is Jayson Tatum's good friend? Both of these guys went to Chaminade High School in the St. Louis area. They're really close, and they're going up head-to-head tonight. Bradley Beal has fared even better against the Celtics than Jayson Tatum has against the Washington Wizards. Check out these numbers in 3 games against Boston. 37 minutes flat, more than 40 points per game. He's shooting a ridiculous 55% from the floor and nearly 46% from three-point range. Boston is going to have to limit and defend and pester Bradley Beal if they have any shot tonight. Let's take a look at what Washington has kind of done throughout this season, and it's been a weird campaign for Washington because they got off to a disastrous start. And at the beginning of this campaign, it looked as though the Bradley Beal-Russell Westbrook duo was going to be a nightmare. But after that horrible first month and change, they've really picked it up over the last couple of months. Why is that? Because Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook have picked it up together, and they have been on an absolute tear. Bradley Beal, his numbers across the board this season, pretty stupid. Finished second in scoring behind Steph Curry, who made that late surge. But either way, his numbers flat out unbelievable. Shooting 48.5% from the floor, almost 35% from beyond the arc, shooting nearly 89% from the free throw stripe, and that points per game second behind Steph Curry at more than 31 points per night. Russell Westbrook, on the other hand, he's had one of the best seasons of his career up to this point. Maybe not from a points per game standpoint, but back, last week, the week before, broke Oscar Robertson's record for the most career doubles in the history of the NBA, and this dude is a walking triple-dub. More than 22 points per game, nearly 12 assists per night, almost 12 rebounds per night, and he's still getting it done defensively because, as we know, Russell Westbrook has a motor that is unlike any player because he's got that Mamba mentality. So we preview these three guys, Jayson Tatum, Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook. Who will have the best performance tonight in the NBA play-in game at TD Garden in Boston, tipping off at 9 o'clock Eastern. Get your votes in the comment section below. Type JT if you think it's Jayson Tatum. Type BB if you think it's Bradley Beal. Type RW if you're going to go with Russ. Want to take a gander at these two starting lineups to see how they compare against one another. Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart, Evan Fournier, Robert Williams, Jayson Tatum, the projected starters for the Celtics without Jaylen Brown, who is out for the rest of the season with that injury. As for the Wizards, look, on paper, doesn't look really that great, but they've been playing really well and winning games because Russ and Bradley Beal have been carrying them. But other than those two guys, Raul Neto is a starter for the Wizards. Yes, that's a real thing. Rui Hachimura out of Gonzaga, really getting off to a solid start in his NBA career, averaging 13.5 points. And Alex Len has kind of resurrected his career a little bit. He's getting the bulk of the minutes at the center spot for the Wizards and has been playing pretty well for Washington. He projects to start at center for the Wiz. Of these two teams, I want to ask you this question. Who has the better starting five? Outside of Russ and Bradley Beal, the Wizards starting five somewhat weak. But on the Celtics side, you're without Jaylen Brown, so let me know who has the better starting five. Type BOS for Boston, type WS for the Washington Wizards. Celtics Today is brought to you by our sportsbook partner at BetUS. I'm telling you right now, this is the best deal that any sportsbook has to offer. This is why. If you go to chatsports.com/bet and enter the promo code CHAT125, BetUS and us here at Chat Sports are offering you a 125% deposit bonus, meaning if you deposit $100 into your account, you get $225 of basically free money, and you can wager on anything that you want, including the play-in game between the Wizards and the Celtics tonight. Let's take a look at these lines. Celtics enter this game as 2.5-point favorites. The over-under set at 227. We've seen that the Wizards have some of the stupidest box scores in the history of the NBA because of Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook. Maybe you want to smash the over. Maybe you think the Wizards are going to win. If you think the Celtics are going to win, that line is pretty favorable at -2.5. So you must use that link at the bottom of your screen as well as that promo code CHAT125 to set yourself up for that 125% deposit bonus. The Celtics beyond this season have a lot of questions, and it could be a very fascinating offseason coming up for Boston because there are some moves that they have to make because you see that record on the bottom of the screen right there, 36-36 isn't good enough for a team with this level of coaching and this much talent. What's going to happen for the Celtics moving forward? Well, Danny Ainge told the Boston Globe that Brad Stevens, Jayson Tatum, and Jaylen Brown are all going to be back next year. He does expect to make some changes this upcoming season. And he did have a back and forth with Dan Shaughnessy. And we want to highlight this because it was a pretty fascinating conversation that both of these guys had. And what you're seeing right now is a back and forth between Shaughnessy and Danny Ainge. This is what Danny Ainge had to say to start. Quote, "We'll make some changes. I don't know what changes we'll make. That's what makes the offseason fun." Shaughnessy, "Okay, is there any possibility of big changes?" Ainge, "I won't comment on that. That's a headline we don't need. We move forward with this conversation." Shaughnessy asked, "Are you coming back, Danny Ainge?" Ainge said, "Of course." "Is Stevens coming back?" "Of course." "Are Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown coming back?" Ainge said, "Yes." "Well then, nothing big," I concluded. That's coming from Dan Shaughnessy. "I don't know what you expect," Ainge said. "You can't think that any of these things are the reason for what this year has been." I know what this year has been for the Celtics. It's been maddening. It's been frustrating. It's been inconsistent. A lot of reasons for that. COVID protocols, as well as injuries. Their late game execution has been poor. And I've seen a roster that doesn't necessarily fit. So I don't know, like Danny Ainge, what changes are going to be made this upcoming offseason. I do expect some changes to be made. Some of them could be major because a 500 record for this team is not good enough, especially in the media market that is Boston. Two big pieces for the Celtics, who Danny Ainge said are going to be back next season, Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And it's my opinion that anytime you have two players of this caliber, you're in a really good spot because these are two of the best wings across the NBA. Jayson Tatum from a scoring perspective, Jaylen Brown from a two-way perspective. And both of them have developed at a really, really impressive clip. You look at their numbers right there, I think this is pretty consistent for what you can expect from Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. What can you expect from Brad Stevens? He's shown in his career he is one of the best coaches across the NBA. But does he handle star talent well? That's a question that remains to be seen. But Brad Stevens has been pretty consistent as the head coach of the Boston Celtics, and I still believe, throwing this year aside, that Stevens is a very, very elite coach. Let's take a look at his record year by year, and there's been a lot of really good memories for the Celtics under Stevens. 2013, 14, 25, and 57. Then they jump to 40 wins. Then they take that next step and get to 48 wins. 2017, 18. A great season, probably the best that Brad Stevens has had. 55 and 27, 28 and 18, 19, 49 and 33. And from that point, it's been somewhat similar, and the Celtics during that span have made it to a couple of conference finals. They haven't yet broken through to get to the NBA finals, and I think that's why Celtics fans are very, very frustrated, because they see the talent that Jayson Tatum possesses. They see the steps that Jaylen Brown has made, and the potential that he has, and how his development has really progressed. Yet, the Celtics, as a team, have made it to two conference finals, one in Jayson Tatum's rookie year, the other one last year, and they haven't quite broken through yet. And you see how this year has transpired, 36 and 36, and Celtics fans are wondering, okay, we have two star players. Danny Ainge has tried to be aggressive, but our late game execution is bad. We haven't performed well in the clutch. Why haven't we taken that next step? Is it because of Brad Stevens? I think this year was just crazy for the Celtics, and I think that next year they're going to return to normal once they don't have to deal with all of these injuries as well as these COVID protocols. Let's be honest, they have faced a lot of obstacles during the 2020-2021 season. We talk about Jayson Tatum. We mentioned Jaylen Brown. I highlighted Brad Stevens' year-by-year record. Who is the most important piece to this Celtics organization right now? Type BS for Brad Stevens, not the other one. Type JT for Jayson Tatum. Type JB for Jaylen Brown. Get your votes in the comment section. This is where I stand. Jayson Tatum is a generational type of player. His mentality, the way that his game has evolved, his growth, reminds me somewhat of Kobe Bryant. And we know that Jayson Tatum admired Kobe Bryant. And anytime you have a wing the caliber of Jayson Tatum, you have the opportunity to compete for NBA championships year in and year out. So if I had to pick one of those three guys, I'm going with Jayson Tatum. But if I'm Danny Ainge, I'm moving forward with all three and making some changes this offseason to see what the Celtics can do next year.